On my 31st birthday, my mother-in-law handed me divorce papers. From all of us, she proclaimed a tea. At the restaurant, my husband recorded my reaction for laughs. I thanked her, signed right away, and walked out. She didn't know what a tea I'd already brewed up. Can you imagine receiving divorce papers for your birthday from your husband's own mother at your own workplace, with your husband filming it? I thought I was walking into a celebration, a chance to finally belong. Instead, it was a public execution. Only, it wasn't my end, it was my beginning. It all started just 3 days before my 31st birthday. I came downstairs early, hoping for a quiet morning, but found Margaret, my mother-in-law, hunched over our kitchen table. Legal documents were spread everywhere. The sight instantly put me on edge. When she saw me, her body language shifted. She gathered the papers with a startling speed for a woman in her 60s, slipping them into a festive birthday envelope. "Just some family paperwork," she said, her smile. It was strange. Not a warm smile, not a fake smile, but something predatory. I assumed it was something boring, like property deeds David needed to sign. The envelope itself was beautiful, pale pink, elegant silver lettering, butterflies dancing around the edges. It looked so innocent, so thoughtful. That morning, before my shift at Romano's restaurant, I'd stumbled upon this scene. Margaret, usually so rigid, was intensely focused, glasses perched on her nose, red pen in hand, making notes. The sound of my footsteps made her snap her head up. For a split second, I saw something in her eyes I'd never witnessed before. Not disapproval, not disappointment, but pure, unadulterated satisfaction. "Good morning, dear," she cooed. "Dear." My stomach dropped. Margaret never called me dear. She usually referred to me as David's wife, or she. This sudden endearment felt wrong, like she was trying it on for size before tossing it away forever. She held that envelope, tracing its edges. "I picked this one specifically for you," she said, watching my face like a hawk. I poured my coffee, trying to act casual. "Do you need help with all that paperwork?" I asked, feigning indifference. Her laugh was light, airy, completely unlike her usual measured responses. "Oh, this is something special I've been working on for quite some time. David doesn't even know about it yet." The secrecy intrigued me. In 2 years of marriage, Margaret had never planned surprises for me. She was practical, direct. The idea that she was putting effort into my birthday felt like progress. "It's something that will change everything," she continued, placing the envelope carefully in her purse. "I've been consulting with professionals to make sure everything is handled properly. You deserve something meaningful after all this time." Her words filled me with a fragile, unexpected hope. Maybe, just maybe, Margaret was finally seeing me. Maybe she'd noticed how hard I'd tried to find more respectable employment, or how much I loved David despite their constant criticism. The thought that she might be planning something truly special for my 31st birthday made me feel lighter than I had in months. David appeared a few moments later, dressed for work. He kissed my cheek, grabbed his travel mug. But then I caught it, a quick, meaningful look between him and his mother. A silent communication that completely excluded me. When I asked if everything was all right, David just smiled. "We're planning something special for your birthday," he said, mirroring his mother's vague sweetness. The rest of that week, Margaret's behavior grew strangely pleasant. She called twice to confirm my schedule, making sure I'd be available for dinner on my birthday. She even suggested we celebrate at Romano's restaurant, my workplace. I was stunned. Margaret had always avoided Romano's, making excuses whenever David suggested it. "I think it would be meaningful to celebrate where you work," she explained during one call. "It's important that we acknowledge all aspects of your life." The words sounded caring, but something in her tone made me profoundly uncomfortable. Margaret didn't speak in sentimental language. This sudden shift felt calculated, not genuine. Emma, David's sister, also started acting differently. She'd smile mysteriously when Margaret mentioned my birthday plans, volunteering to help with arrangements. Emma usually avoided any family event that involved me. Her enthusiasm felt deeply suspicious, but I pushed down my doubts. I wanted to believe this was their way of finally accepting me. David's excitement grew throughout the week. He'd constantly check his phone, responding to texts with satisfied grins. When I tried to peek, he'd playfully angle the screen away. "Surprise business," he'd say. "You're not allowed to see." His secretive behavior felt loving, conspiratorial, not threatening. The night before my birthday, Margaret called one last time. "Wear something nice," she advised, "but nothing too formal. You'll want to be comfortable for what we have planned." Her tone carried an edge of anticipation that I, foolishly, mistook for excitement about finally celebrating me. I spent extra time choosing my outfit, a navy dress that felt professional but approachable. The mirror reflected someone trying desperately to be worthy of acceptance. I wanted to look perfect for what I hoped would be our breakthrough moment as a family. That evening, David was unusually affectionate. He held me close, telling me how much he loved me, speaking with an intensity that felt almost like goodbye. "Tomorrow will be a day you'll never forget," he whispered into my hair. I fell asleep feeling cherished and hopeful, completely unaware that his tenderness was actually guilt, an apology for what was coming. The decorated envelope sat in Margaret's purse, waiting to deliver its devastating contents. While I dreamed of acceptance, she was rehearsing her speech about family standards and difficult decisions. The woman who had smiled so strangely over those legal documents was counting down the hours until she could destroy me publicly. I woke up on my 31st birthday believing it would mark my acceptance into David's family. Instead, it would become the day Margaret handed me the greatest gift of my life, freedom. Freedom from their toxic judgment, and the chance to discover who I could become without their limitations. Let me rewind a bit. My struggle with David's family wasn't new. The very first family gathering after our honeymoon, David's cousin Michael's graduation party, was a baptism by fire. I spent 2 hours getting ready, choosing a conservative black dress, minimal jewelry. I just wanted to blend in. Margaret greeted me at the door with air kisses that never quite touched my cheeks. Then she immediately steered me toward a group of well-dressed women I'd never met. "This is David's wife," she announced, a deliberate pause hanging in the air. "She works in the service industry." Patricia raised her eyebrows knowingly. Cousin Janet made a sympathetic sound that felt more like pity than welcome. "How interesting," Janet said, her smile tight. "What kind of service work do you do?" Margaret jumped in before I could even open my mouth, explaining that I was still figuring out my career path while working temporarily in food service. She made it sound like I was lost, directionless, rather than employed and hardworking. The conversation flowed around me, discussing Michael's law firm, internship, another cousin's promotion, Emma's engagement to a doctor. When someone asked about my background, Margaret smoothly redirected the topic to David's accounting practice. I excused myself to the bathroom, needing a moment to breathe away from their suffocating disapproval. In the hallway, I overheard Margaret telling someone, "We're hoping she'll find something more suitable soon. David deserves a wife who can contribute to their social position properly." The words stung. They reduced my entire identity to my perceived failure to meet their standards. Thanksgiving dinner, 3 months later, followed the same pattern, but with increased intensity. Margaret had invited extended family. As we went around the table sharing what we were thankful for, she made sure to highlight everyone's professional achievements, strategically skipping over me entirely. "I'm thankful for Emma's engagement to Dr. Patterson," she beamed. "And for David's growing client base." When my turn came, I meekly said I was grateful for family and good health, avoiding any mention of work. Margaret's sister, Patricia, pulled me aside after dinner. "You know, dear," she said, ostensibly to help with dishes, but really to deliver unsolicited advice. "Margaret just wants what's best for David. Have you considered going back to school?" Her words carried the weight of family consensus. They'd all discussed my inadequacies. They'd agreed on solutions. The holidays became endurance tests. At Christmas, Margaret gave Emma a beautiful silk scarf. For me, a book titled Professional Success for Women, wrapped in newspaper instead of proper gift paper. The message was clear. Everyone else received gifts, I received homework. David's birthday party in February revealed how deeply the family dynamics had shifted. Margaret planned an elaborate celebration at an upscale restaurant, inviting his professional colleagues. I tried to participate in conversations about business trends. When someone asked about my work, David actually stepped in before I could answer. "She's exploring different opportunities right now," he said, avoiding my eye. His shame about my job had grown so obvious, he couldn't even let me speak for myself anymore. The man who once bragged about my work ethic now treated my employment like a family secret. Emma's engagement party in March brought new levels of social torture. Her college sorority sisters, all successful professionals, asked polite questions about my career. Margaret hovered nearby, ready to redirect attention whenever I mentioned Romanos, making my occupation invisible. The worst incident was Easter dinner. Margaret's friend, Carol, a retired executive, spent the meal discussing her daughter's law career and her son's medical practice. When she asked about me, Margaret interrupted my response to explain that I was between opportunities and considering various options for professional growth. I excused myself to the powder room and cried quietly, feeling completely erased from my own life story. Margaret was rewriting my identity to fit her narrative, turning steady employment into temporary confusion and honest work into something shameful that needed explanation or apology. The pattern became predictable, painful. Margaret would position me near people who would ask about my work, then swoop in to manage the conversation when my answers didn't meet her standards. She'd suggest I was actively job hunting or pursuing education, creating fictional versions of my life that sounded more acceptable. David's transformation was the most heartbreaking. The man who loved my independence now looked embarrassed. He'd change the subject or make jokes about upgrading my career. The family group chat became another source of humiliation. Emma would share articles about successful women, always with comments about inspiration and goals. When I'd respond positively, she'd follow up with questions about my professional development that felt more like interrogations. Margaret's friends at the country club were another avenue for public embarrassment. She'd mention my employment status with theatrical sighs, describing it as David's burden that the family was helping him handle. Their pitying expressions and overly encouraging comments about finding my path made it clear I was a project, not a person. The constant criticism started affecting how I saw myself. Margaret's comments about my appearance made me second-guess every outfit. I started shopping for clothes I couldn't afford, trying to look like the professional women she preferred. My credit card balance grew while my self-confidence shrank. By the spring of our second year, I was a different person. Margaret's systematic campaign had succeeded in making me question my worth, my choices, my place in David's life. Every family interaction reinforced their message. I was a temporary embarrassment, not a permanent family member. The breaking point arrived during a phone conversation I wasn't supposed to hear. Margaret was talking to her friend Helen about David's marriage, and her words cut through me with surgical precision. "I keep praying he'll come to his senses before it's too late. He's such a good boy, and he deserves someone who can enhance his life, rather than hold him back." Standing in my own hallway, listening to my mother-in-law pray for my marriage's destruction, I finally understood. Acceptance was never going to be possible. Margaret didn't just disapprove of my job. She disapproved of my existence in David's life. The battle I'd been fighting was rigged from the beginning, designed to wear me down until I either transformed completely or disappeared entirely. The morning after that devastating phone call, I sat at my laptop with renewed determination. If she was praying for David to leave me, I'd prove her wrong by becoming the professional woman she claimed he deserved. Job search websites glowed on my screen. LinkedIn, Indeed, Monster. My resume looked pathetic. 3 years at Romano's, a high school diploma, scattered customer service from part-time jobs. Blank sections where college degrees and professional accomplishments should have been. Margaret's voice echoed in my head. Real qualifications, proper preparation. I rewrote my job descriptions 5 times, trying to make serving tables sound like executive experience. Managed multiple client relationships simultaneously while maintaining high satisfaction ratings. Coordinated complex service delivery under time-sensitive conditions. The words felt fake, inflated, but online articles promised strategic language could bridge experience gaps. Cover letters became my obsession. I'd wake up early, crafting personalized messages for administrative assistant, customer service, and entry-level office jobs across 3 counties. Each letter took an hour to write, explaining how my restaurant background prepared me for professional challenges. I highlighted reliability, communication skills, ability to work under pressure. The first rejection email arrived within hours, seeking candidates with medical office experience. The second, college-level education for this role. By the end of the first week, my inbox overflowed with polite dismissals. I wasn't qualified for anything beyond my current situation. David found me, crying over my laptop one evening. "Maybe you're aiming too high, too fast," he suggested, rubbing my shoulders. "There's nothing wrong with starting smaller." His words were meant to comfort, but they echoed his mother's constant message: lower my expectations rather than raise my qualifications. The interview at Henderson Insurance Company became a real-world lesson in humiliation. The office building itself intimidated me. Women in sharp suits clicked across marble floors, carrying briefcases. I felt underdressed, despite my best outfit. Mrs. Henderson, the hiring manager, looked at my resume for exactly 30 seconds. "Your background is quite limited for this position," she said, not bothering to hide her disappointment. "We typically hire candidates with insurance experience or business degrees. What made you think you'd be qualified for account management?" My carefully prepared answers about transferable skills fell flat. Mrs. Henderson checked her watch while I spoke, making it clear my time, and hers, was being wasted. "Perhaps you should consider positions more aligned with your current skill set." She ended the interview 15 minutes early. The drive home was the longest 20 minutes of my life. I sat in the parking lot, replaying every cringeworthy moment. Margaret's voice: "Some people just aren't meant for professional environments." Community college enrollment became my next desperate strategy. The evening business program promised to give me the credentials Margaret claimed I lacked. I registered for Introduction to Business, Basic Accounting, Professional Communication, paying with money I'd saved for new furniture. My first night in class revealed how unprepared I was. Other students were working professionals, speaking confidently about corporate experiences. I sat quietly, hoping no one would ask about my background. Professor Martinez assigned a project on professional networking. I had no connections in business, no mentors, no idea how to approach strangers. While classmates discussed their industry contacts, I realized how isolated I was. David's reaction to my college enrollment was lukewarm. "Are you sure this is worth the time and money?" he asked. "Maybe you should focus on finding work first." His practical concerns made sense financially, but his lack of enthusiasm felt like another vote of no confidence. My performance at Romano's restaurant began declining. Late-night studying left me tired. Constant rejection made me lose the cheerful energy customers appreciated. I'd space out taking orders, distracted by interview prep or homework. Mr. Romano noticed. "You seem troubled lately," he said. "Is everything all right at home?" His genuine concern made me want to confess everything, but how could I explain that my husband's family was systematically destroying my confidence? I blamed general stress. Maria, the head cook, became my unofficial therapist. She'd noticed my red eyes, wordlessly handing me extra coffee. "Education is good," she said one day, "but don't let anyone make you ashamed of honest work." The financial pressure of my improvement campaign created new problems. Interview clothes, gas money for drives to different cities, textbooks, tuition fees, they drained our tight budget. David started questioning every purchase. "Maybe we should take a break from all this," he suggested after reviewing our credit card statements. "You're spending more money trying to get jobs than you'd earn in the first few months." His practical observation felt like abandonment. The community college library became my refuge. I'd sit surrounded by business textbooks, trying to absorb knowledge that might make me worthy. My grades were excellent, proving I had the intelligence Margaret claimed I lacked. Professor Martinez praised my written assignments. For 3 hours each week, I felt valued, capable. But those feelings evaporated the moment I returned home to face family disapproval. The spring semester brought advanced business communication. My first presentation. Standing in front of the class, explaining customer relationship management principles I'd learned through restaurant work, I felt confident, knowledgeable. My classmates were genuinely interested in my practical experience. That confidence lasted until I shared my academic success with David. "That's great," he said absently, scrolling through his phone. "Maybe Margaret will be impressed when you finish the program." His response reduced my achievement to ammunition in the ongoing war for his mother's approval, rather than recognizing my personal growth. The semester ended with strong grades and renewed hope, but job applications yielded the same rejections. Insufficient experience. Looking for candidates with degree completion. Position requires corporate background. Each email reinforced the message: education alone wouldn't bridge the gap between my current reality and their expectations. Margaret's reaction to my academic progress was predictably dismissive. "Community college is a good start," she said, "though real career advancement usually requires proper university education." Even my success became evidence of my continued inadequacy. Summer arrived, my determination intact. Despite Margaret's comments, I created spreadsheets to track my job applications, color-coding them: green for submitted, yellow for pending, red for rejections. Within 3 weeks, my screen was overwhelmed with red cells. Each one another door slammed shut. The rejection from Pinnacle Marketing stung. I'd driven 45 minutes for an interview, wearing a blazer bought specifically for the occasion. The HR director glanced at my resume, asked 2 questions about my restaurant experience, then spent 10 minutes explaining why they needed someone with a traditional business background. "Your customer service skills are admirable," she said, with practiced politeness. "But this position requires strategic thinking and analytical capabilities that come from corporate experience." She might as well have said waitresses couldn't think properly. I thanked her and walked back to my car, feeling smaller than when I'd arrived. The folder of rejection letters grew thick enough to need a rubber band. Each form response was slightly different, but the message was always the same: insufficient qualifications, lack of relevant experience, not the right fit. I started recognizing the phrases that meant no before reading entire emails. "While your background is interesting," meant rejection. "We've decided to pursue other candidates," meant failure. Some companies never responded at all, leaving me to obsessively check my email for weeks. Those non-responses felt worse than direct rejections. They suggested my application wasn't even worth acknowledging. Margaret's weekly phone calls became sessions of barely concealed gloating. "How's the job search going, dear?" she'd ask, with false sweetness. When I admitted another week without responses, she'd make sympathetic sounds that felt more like celebration. "These things take patience," she'd say. "Not everyone is cut out for certain types of work." The interview at Westfield Insurance was the most humiliating. The receptionist made me wait 2 hours. When Mr. Westfield finally called me in, he seemed surprised to see me. "Oh, right, the restaurant girl," he said, shuffling papers. He asked me to complete a computer skills assessment. Spreadsheet functions I'd never seen. My confusion was obvious. "This position requires technical competency," he explained. "Perhaps you should consider roles that better match your current skill level." The suggestion that I should stay in my lane felt like Margaret speaking through a stranger's mouth. David started noticing my defeated returns from interviews. "How did it go today?" he'd ask. I began editing my stories, removing the most humiliating details to preserve what remained of his respect. When the hiring manager at Thompson Real Estate laughed at my salary expectations, I told David the interview went pretty well. Romano's provided the only stability in my chaotic world. Mr. Romano noticed my distraction. "Is everything okay at home?" he asked. I couldn't explain. He respected my privacy, but quietly gave me easier sections and extra breaks. Maria, the head cook, became my unexpected emotional support. "They tried to make you think you're not good enough," she said one evening. "But look around here. You handle 6 tables during rush hour, remember every order, keep customers happy even when they're difficult. That takes intelligence and skill they don't teach in fancy schools." Tony, the youngest staff member, offered encouragement. "You're the smartest person here," he'd tell me. "Those companies don't know what they're missing." His faith in me felt precious because it came without conditions. The financial strain of my job search affected our marriage. Interview outfits, gas, parking, tuition, they consumed our savings. David watched our balance shrink with growing concern. Maybe you should take a break from the applications, he suggested. Focus on school for now. It made practical sense, but it felt like surrender to Margaret's timeline. Sleep became elusive. I'd lie awake replaying interview mistakes. The darkness amplified every insecurity Margaret had planted. My appetite disappeared. I lost weight. Margaret noticed during our monthly family dinner, commenting with false concern that felt like satisfaction. Even my physical appearance became evidence of my failure. The stack of rejection letters grew so thick I had to move them to a larger folder. Each one stung. Margaret's prediction seemed accurate. The professional world appeared determined to keep me exactly where I was, serving tables while dreaming of acceptance I'd never achieve. Then came Monday afternoon. I was at the kitchen table, surrounded by the remnants of another failed week. 47 rejections. Margaret's latest dismissive comment about community college. David's growing impatience with our expenses. I questioned everything I'd been fighting for. The laundry basket beside me held clothes that represented my shrinking world: work uniforms, unsuccessful interview outfits, casual wear for staying home between disappointments. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. Telemarketers were frequent, but something made me answer. Maybe I was hoping for a miracle. Maybe I was just tired of feeling disconnected. Hello. Is this speaking with Jennifer? The woman's voice was professional but warm. This is Jessica Martinez from Grand Plaza Hotel's Human Resources Department. I hope I'm not calling at a bad time. My heart stopped. Grand Plaza Hotel. I remembered submitting that application during a desperate evening in February, 6 months ago. It had been one of dozens, cast into the void of online job boards with little hope. We received your application for our guest services coordinator position, Jessica continued, and I was wondering if you're still interested in discussing opportunities with our team. Her words sounded impossible. After months of silence, someone was actually calling me about a job, treating my application like it had value. I sat down the shirt I'd been folding, my hands trembling. Yes, absolutely, I managed, trying to keep my voice steady. I'm very interested in learning more. Jessica's laugh was genuine, encouraging. Nothing like the polite dismissals I'd grown used to. Wonderful. I have to tell you, your restaurant experience really caught our attention. We find that candidates with your background often excel in hospitality because you understand customer service from the ground up. Her words were revolutionary. Someone was praising my waitressing experience instead of apologizing for it. She explained Grand Plaza Hotel valued employees who understood service excellence through practical application. My years at Romano's weren't a liability, they were credentials. We offer comprehensive training programs for career development, she continued, including management track opportunities. Our benefits package includes health insurance, dental coverage, retirement planning, and educational assistance. The benefits surpassed anything I'd imagined. At Romano's, health insurance was a luxury. The idea of an employer investing in my education instead of questioning my qualifications felt foreign and wonderful. There's one more aspect of this position that might interest you, Jessica said, her voice excited. The role includes housing in our employee residential building. A fully furnished apartment with utilities included. Just a 5-minute walk from the hotel. I had to sit down. Free housing. It meant independence from David's family. Freedom from their constant criticism and financial pressure. 3 hours away from Margaret's disapproving presence felt like an impossible dream that someone was offering as reality. The distance would mean starting fresh, where nobody knew about my year of failures and rejections. The salary ranges from $42,000 to $48,000 annually, Jessica added. My current income barely reached $30,000, even with good tips and extra shifts. The financial independence this job offered would transform my entire life. I realize this might be a big decision since you'd be relocating, she said, but we're impressed with your background and think you'd be an excellent fit for our team culture. Would you be interested in scheduling a phone interview? My mind raced. Professional respect, financial security, physical distance from Margaret's toxicity, a chance to prove my worth in an environment that valued my existing skills. Everything I'd been desperately seeking was being offered by someone who saw potential, not limitations. I would love to schedule an interview, I said, my voice stronger than it had been in months. This opportunity sounds incredible. Jessica's enthusiasm was infectious. We scheduled the phone interview for Thursday afternoon. After hanging up, I sat in my quiet kitchen, feeling emotions I'd almost forgotten existed. Hope bubbled up from somewhere deep inside, replacing the constant anxiety that had become my normal state. The irony wasn't lost on me. Margaret's birthday envelope sat somewhere in this house, filled with legal documents designed to destroy my place in this family. Meanwhile, I now possessed information that would prove every negative thing she'd ever said about my potential was completely wrong. The timing felt like cosmic justice. I wanted to call David immediately, but something held me back. This opportunity was mine alone, discovered through my own efforts, despite his family's constant discouragement. For the first time in our marriage, I had something valuable that didn't require their approval or validation. The job offer represented more than employment. It was vindication. Jessica Martinez had seen qualities in my application that dozens of other employers had missed or dismissed. Someone finally recognized that my restaurant experience demonstrated valuable skills rather than professional inadequacy. I decided to keep the news secret until my birthday celebration. Margaret had spent 2 years trying to prove I wasn't good enough. Now I could reveal that not only was I good enough, but I was moving beyond their limited vision of my potential. The decorated envelope she prepared would pale in comparison to the real gift I'd be sharing, evidence that their judgment had been wrong all along. That evening, I moved through my routine at Romano's with renewed energy. My regular customers noticed the change. Mrs. Patterson, who came in every Monday, said I looked happier than she'd seen me in months. The secret knowledge of my opportunity felt powerful and precious. While Margaret prepared whatever surprise she thought would devastate me, I was holding information that would transform our entire dynamic. For once, I would be the one with shocking news to share. And they would be the ones struggling to process an unexpected revelation. 3 days stretched ahead before my birthday celebration. 3 days to savor the knowledge that everything was about to change. Margaret's envelope might contain family paperwork, as she'd claimed. But my future now held possibilities she couldn't imagine or control. Tuesday morning brought my phone interview with Jessica Martinez. I locked myself in our bedroom. The conversation exceeded every hope. Jessica's questions focused on scenarios I could confidently answer, handling difficult customers, managing multiple priorities, maintaining service excellence. Your references from Romano's restaurant are glowing, she said. Mr. Romano spoke very highly of your reliability and customer relationship skills. That's exactly the foundation we build on here at Grand Plaza Hotel. Hearing that my current employer had praised me to a potential new one felt like absolute vindication. The formal job offer arrived via email that afternoon. The PDF was official, beautiful, with the hotel's elegant letterhead and detailed terms that made this opportunity feel real. Guest Services Coordinator, starting salary $45,000, comprehensive benefits, employee housing included. I printed 3 copies, folding one carefully to carry in my purse like a talisman. That evening at Romano's, I moved through my shift with energy I hadn't felt in months. Every customer interaction reminded me that I was good at this work. Mrs. Chin complimented my service and left a generous tip. I thought about how those same abilities would translate to luxury hotel hospitality. You seem different tonight, Maria observed. More like yourself again. She was right. The weight of constant inadequacy had lifted. For the first time since Margaret's campaign began, I felt worthy. David's call Wednesday morning changed the entire trajectory of my secret planning. Mom wants to take you out for your birthday tomorrow, he said, excitement obvious in his voice. She suggested Romano's since you're always talking about how much you love working there. His interpretation of Margaret's choice made perfect sense to me. Finally, she was acknowledging my workplace instead of dismissing it. That's wonderful, I said, genuinely touched. I can't believe she wants to celebrate at Romano's. Does this mean she's finally accepting my job? David's pause lasted just long enough to plant seeds of hope that would make tomorrow's revelation even more meaningful. "I think she's beginning to understand what makes you happy," he said carefully. "She wants this birthday to be special." His words felt like confirmation that the family dynamics were shifting in my favor. Combined with my secret job offer, everything seemed to be aligning for a perfect celebration of new beginnings. Emma's text message that afternoon added to my excitement. "Can't wait for tomorrow night. This birthday will definitely be memorable." Her enthusiasm seemed genuine for the first time. Maybe David had talked to his family. Or perhaps they'd finally recognized my efforts. I spent Wednesday evening planning exactly how I'd reveal my news. The job offer letter sat in my jewelry box, waiting for the perfect moment. I practiced in the bathroom mirror, trying to find the balance between humility and confidence. "I have some exciting news to share," I rehearsed. 3 days ago, I received a job offer from Grand Plaza Hotel. The words felt powerful, transformative. I imagined her shocked expression, David's proud smile, Emma's grudging respect. Thursday morning shopping became an adventure in self-expression I hadn't allowed myself in months. I chose a navy dress with subtle elegance that would photograph well. The fabric felt expensive. I wanted to look like the professional woman I was about to become. My hair appointment at Sandra's salon was a luxury I justified as an investment in my future image. Sandra noticed my improved mood immediately. "You're glowing today," she said. "Something good must be happening." "Something wonderful," I confirmed. "I can't talk about it yet, but tonight is going to change everything." Sandra's knowing smile made me feel like we were conspirators. The phone interview confirmation from Jessica had been brief, but reassuring. "We're moving forward with the hiring process. Pending your acceptance, we'd like you to start in 2 weeks. Does that timeline work?" 2 weeks felt perfect. I practiced my announcement during the drive to Romano's, speaking to my reflection at red lights. "I want to share some wonderful news with all of you. I've been offered a position at Grand Plaza Hotel." The words felt foreign and exciting, like trying on clothes that were too expensive but fit perfectly. My anticipation grew as I parked outside the restaurant. Mr. Romano waved from behind the counter. Tonight, I'd tell him about my career advancement, thanking him for the foundation he'd helped me build. The secret job offer had given me armor. When Margaret had commented on Tuesday about my dead-end situation, I just smiled and said, things were looking up. When she mentioned David needed a wife who could contribute meaningfully to their social position, I agreed completely, knowing I was about to exceed her wildest expectations. Emma's social media posts about ambitious women bounced off me harmlessly. Soon she'd see that I'd been ambitious all along. I just needed someone to recognize my potential. David's excitement about tonight had grown increasingly obvious. He kept checking his phone, responding to family group texts. When I asked about the plans, he just smiled mysteriously. "You'll love what they've prepared." His secretive behavior felt loving and conspiratorial, not threatening. The jewelry box in our bedroom held my job offer letter like a secret weapon. Tonight, that folded document would transform me from Margaret's disappointing daughter-in-law into a professional success story. The woman who'd spent a year praying for my failure was about to witness my greatest triumph. Walking toward Romano's entrance for my birthday celebration, I felt lighter than I had since our wedding day. The secret knowledge of my future gave me confidence. Margaret's decorated envelope might contain family paperwork, but my purse held the key to freedom, respect, and vindication. The bell above Romano's entrance chimed as I pushed through the familiar glass door. My family followed behind me into the warm, welcoming atmosphere I'd called my second home. "Jennifer." Mr. Romano's voice boomed. His weathered face broke into a genuine smile. He hurried over, wiping his hands on his apron. "This must be the birthday celebration you mentioned." "Mr. Romano, I'd like you to meet my family," I said, a pride I didn't know I possessed swelling in my chest. "This is my husband, David, his mother, Margaret, and his sister, Emma." Mr. Romano shook hands warmly with each of them. I was grateful Margaret would finally see the respect and affection I'd earned here. Margaret's smile was polite but strained as she surveyed the modest dining room with critical eyes. The red vinyl booths, mismatched chairs, handwritten specials board, clearly not her usual standard. But she was here, making an effort, and that felt like progress. "We'll take good care of you tonight," Mr. Romano promised, leading us to the corner booth. Maria caught my eye from the kitchen window and winked. Tony, setting up tables, gave me a thumbs up and mouthed, "Happy birthday." Settling into the booth felt surreal. I'd served countless meals here, but now I sat as a guest. Margaret examined the laminated menu with visible skepticism, holding it like it might contaminate her. Emma scrolled through her phone, occasionally exchanging meaningful looks with David. "The chicken parmesan is excellent here," I suggested, trying to bridge the gap between my two worlds. "Mr. Romano's wife makes the sauce from her grandmother's recipe." Margaret nodded politely, but ordered the most expensive item on the menu, lobster ravioli, $28, not even a signature dish. David's behavior struck me as nervous excitement. He kept checking his phone under the table, responding to texts. "Are you expecting an important call?" I asked when his phone buzzed for the fourth time. David glanced at Margaret, receiving some kind of silent approval. "Just coordinating some surprise elements," he said with a smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. Margaret's conversation felt artificial, rehearsed. She asked about my community college classes with false interest, nodding along but clearly thinking about something else. Her usual criticism was absent, replaced by an odd pleasantness that should have warned me, but instead filled me with hope. "You've been working so hard to improve yourself," Margaret said as we waited for our main courses. "It's admirable how determined you've been despite all the challenges." Her words sounded supportive, but something in her tone made them feel like a setup. Emma snorted quietly, quickly covering it with a cough. The birthday cake appeared as we finished dinner, carried by Sandra, one of the newer servers. She placed it carefully in front of me, smiling warmly as the entire restaurant began singing happy birthday. Regular customers joined in, creating a chorus of genuine affection. "Make a wish," David said, positioning his phone to capture the moment. I closed my eyes and wished for the courage to share my job offer news gracefully, hoping this announcement would finally bridge the gap. The candles flickered as I blew them out. Margaret's applause was enthusiastic, but hollow, sharp. She reached into her designer purse with theatrical ceremony, withdrawing the decorated envelope. "We have a special gift for you," she announced, her voice carrying clearly across nearby tables. "From all of us," she continued, holding the envelope high enough for other diners to see. The pink paper with silver butterflies looked festive and innocent. Exactly like something chosen for a beloved family member. Other customers turned to watch, probably thinking how lucky I was. Emma's phone appeared in her hands, also positioned to record. David adjusted his angle to capture my face, his excitement palpable. Their coordination was perfect. "Open it," Margaret urged, her eyes bright with an anticipation I still mistook for grandmotherly joy. The envelope felt heavier than expected. The paper tore easily under my fingernails, revealing official documents. Legal letterhead caught my eye first, followed by formal language that took my brain several seconds to process. "Petition for dissolution of marriage" sat at the top of the first page in bold, imposing letters. They seemed to grow larger as I stared. My breath caught in my throat. "Divorce papers. On my birthday. In front of my coworkers and regular customers." The decorated envelope, so innocent, was a weapon. Designed for maximum destruction of my dignity. The restaurant buzzed with normal dinner conversation around us. But our corner booth existed in a bubble of tension so thick I could barely breathe. Margaret's satisfied expression confirmed this wasn't a mistake. This was exactly what she'd planned. David's phone remained steady, still recording my reaction for posterity. They wanted to capture this moment of devastation, probably to watch it again later, share it with family who couldn't attend. My humiliation was their entertainment, carefully orchestrated and professionally documented. The papers felt heavy in my trembling hands. I looked up at three faces watching me with eager anticipation. Margaret's smile was triumphant. Emma's expression was gleeful. David looked nervous but excited. They had turned my birthday into their victory celebration, using my own workplace as the stage for my public destruction. Time seemed to slow. I stared at those divorce papers, my mind processing the magnitude of what they'd planned. The decorated envelope, the cruelest blow imaginable. But instead of the devastation they expected, I felt something entirely different washing over me. Clarity. Pure, crystalline clarity about who these people really were. About what this moment actually meant. Margaret's smile was radiant. Her eyes sparkled with the joy of someone who'd successfully executed a months-long plan. Emma leaned forward, phone still recording, hungry for the breakdown they'd orchestrated. David's camera remained focused on my face, waiting for tears that would never come. The restaurant's ambient noise faded into whispers as nearby diners sensed the drama. Mrs. Patterson, my regular customer, turned in her chair. The young couple at table 12 stopped talking, drawn by the tension. I looked down at the documents again, noting the careful preparation. Someone had hired an attorney, filed paperwork, coordinated the timing. The petition was thorough, requiring only my signature. They'd even brought a pen. Well, Margaret prompted, when my silence stretched longer than she'd expected. Aren't you going to say something? Her voice carried across the quiet restaurant. The expectation was clear. I was supposed to beg, cry, create a scene. Instead, I reached for the pen they'd provided. And I signed my name. My handwriting steadier than it had been in months. The ink flowed smoothly across the signature line, marking the end of a marriage, but also the beginning of something they couldn't imagine. Margaret's triumphant expression faltered. David's phone wavered. Confusion replaced anticipation. That's it, he asked, his voice barely audible. You're not going to fight this? Or ask questions? His disappointment was palpable. My calm acceptance wasn't providing the entertainment value they'd anticipated. Thank you, I said, standing up from the booth with my dignity intact. This is actually the most generous gift you could have given me. Margaret's face shifted from satisfaction to bewilderment. Then I reached into my purse and withdrew my own envelope. The official job offer letter from Grand Plaza Hotel. The one that would rewrite their entire narrative about my worth. I have some news to share as well, I announced, my voice carrying clearly through the hushed restaurant. 3 days ago, I was offered a position as guest services coordinator at Grand Plaza Hotel. The salary is $45,000 annually, with full benefits and housing included. The words felt powerful, each one landing with precision. Margaret's mouth opened slightly, but no sound emerged. Emma's phone slipped in her grasp, then she recovered, still recording, though her expression had shifted from gleeful anticipation to stunned disbelief. David's camera captured his own shocked face in the black screen as he forgot to keep filming my reaction. The position starts in 2 weeks, I continued, savoring the weight of their attention. It's in another city, about 3 hours from here. A fresh start. With people who value restaurant experience and customer service skills. Each detail was a small victory over their months of criticism and dismissal. Then the restaurant erupted. Mr. Romano's voice boomed. Jennifer, that's wonderful news. Maria's face appeared in the kitchen window, her smile broad. You deserve this, she called out, her accent thick with emotion. Tony dropped his cleaning cloth and started clapping. The sound of applause filled Romano's as my coworkers celebrated news that transformed their colleagues' humiliation into triumph. Regular customers who'd watched me work through difficult months stood up, adding their voices. Mrs. Patterson raised her water glass. To Jennifer and her bright future, she declared. The restaurant became a community rallying around someone they'd watched struggle. Their genuine joy drowned out the family who'd tried to destroy me. Margaret's face cycled through emotions I'd never seen before. Confusion gave way to disbelief, then something disturbingly like fear. She'd expected to deliver a devastating blow to a vulnerable woman, not hand freedom to someone who'd already secured her independence. Her carefully planned moment of triumph was collapsing into public embarrassment. You knew about this job when you signed those papers? David asked, his voice strained with the realization that I'd outmaneuvered them completely. His phone hung forgotten in his lap. I received the offer 3 days ago, I confirmed, watching his face pale as the timeline clicked into place. The same day, you all started acting mysteriously excited about my birthday celebration. Emma's phone captured David's growing understanding that their surprise had backfired spectacularly. The irony was perfect and devastating. Margaret had handed me divorce papers, expecting to break me. But she'd actually freed me to pursue the professional respect she'd always claimed I couldn't achieve. Their cruelty had eliminated the only obstacle preventing me from accepting an opportunity that would prove every negative thing they'd said about my potential was wrong. The training program includes management development, I added, pulling the official letterhead from my purse. They specifically recruited me because of my restaurant background. Apparently, my experience here at Romano's demonstrates exactly the skills they value for advancement in hospitality management. Mr. Romano appeared beside our table, his face glowing with pride. Jennifer is one of our finest employees, he told Margaret directly. Smart, dedicated, and respected by everyone here. This hotel is lucky to have her. His words carried the weight of 3 years, watching me work with integrity. Margaret's silence was deafening. The woman who'd spent 2 years lecturing me about professional inadequacy now sat speechless as my coworkers celebrated an achievement that invalidated every criticism she'd made. Her decorated envelope had delivered my freedom instead of my destruction. Emma lowered her phone slowly, finally understanding that their perfectly planned ambush had become my moment of vindication. The video they'd intended to share as entertainment would now document their own failure. David stared at the job offer letter like it was written in a foreign language. 2 years of supporting his mother's criticism had just cost him a wife who was walking away with professional success, financial independence, and the moral high ground he'd helped them steal from me. The silence that followed my job announcement stretched across Romano's like a held breath. I stood beside our corner booth, divorce papers in one hand, my future in the other, watching Margaret's face cycle through emotions she'd never shown before. The woman who'd orchestrated this public execution now sat speechless, her satisfied smile frozen into something resembling panic. David's phone remained motionless, its black screen reflecting his stunned expression. The video he'd been so eager to capture had become evidence of his own miscalculation. "You planned this," Margaret finally whispered, her voice barely audible. "You knew about the divorce papers." Her accusation carried no conviction, because she was beginning to understand that my calm reaction wasn't planned. It was genuine relief, disguised as composure. "I planned nothing," I replied, my voice steady and clear enough for nearby tables to hear. "You handed me freedom I didn't even know I wanted. 3 days ago, while you were preparing those papers, I received validation that everything you've said about my limitations was wrong." The timing was perfect, almost supernatural in its irony. Emma's phone captured her mother's growing realization that their surprise had backfired completely. Margaret had expected tears, pleas, desperate attempts to salvage our marriage. Instead, she'd handed liberation to someone who was already planning to leave their toxic judgment behind forever. 45,000, I repeated, letting the number sink into their consciousness. Plus benefits, housing, and career advancement opportunities. The management training program starts with my employment. Each detail was a small explosion in their narrative about my professional inadequacy. Mr. Romano reached our table, his weathered hands clasping mine with fatherly pride. "Jennifer, this is incredible news," he said loudly. "Grand Plaza Hotel is getting someone special. We're going to miss you terribly, but this opportunity is exactly what you deserve." His public endorsement validated my character in front of witnesses who'd just observed Margaret's cruelty. Maria emerged from the kitchen. "You're going to be amazing," she called out. "Show them what Romano's girls can do when given real chances." Tony appeared beside Maria, beaming. "This is the best birthday surprise ever. You're going to run that whole hotel someday." His enthusiasm was infectious. Regular customers began approaching, drawn by the celebration. Mrs. Chin squeezed my shoulder. "Good for you, honey. You always seem too smart for." She paused, glancing at Margaret, "for staying in one place forever." The contrast between my supporters and David's family became stark. Romano's staff and customers surrounded me with genuine affection. Margaret, David, and Emma remained frozen at their table, processing how their moment of triumph had transformed into public embarrassment. "When do you start?" Mr. Romano asked. 2 weeks, I answered, watching Margaret's face pale further. She was beginning to understand that I'd been planning my escape while she was planning my destruction. The divorce papers she'd prepared as my ending were actually clearing the path for my new beginning. David finally found his voice, strained and uncertain. "You're really leaving?" Just like that. His question revealed how little he understood about the damage his family had inflicted. "I'm really free," I corrected, emphasizing the word that captured what this moment truly meant. Free to work where I'm valued, live where I'm respected, and build relationships with people who celebrate my success instead of planning my failure. My words were measured, calm, but they cut through the noise with surgical precision. Margaret attempted to regain control. "This is all very sudden, dear. Perhaps you should think carefully before making such drastic decisions." The endearment sounded hollow and desperate. "I've been thinking for 2 years," I replied, meeting her gaze directly. Every criticism, every comparison, every suggestion that I wasn't good enough, all of it led me to this moment. "You were right about one thing, Margaret. I do deserve better." The restaurant's applause grew louder. Other diners had pieced together enough to understand they were witnessing someone's liberation. "The beautiful thing about timing," I continued, my voice growing stronger, "is that your gift of divorce papers arrived exactly when I was ready to accept freedom. I don't have to choose between my marriage and my self-respect anymore. You've made that decision beautifully simple." Emma's recording captured her family's growing discomfort as they realized their roles had reversed. They'd come as executioners, but found themselves defendants. Margaret's purse sat open beside her, the decorative envelope looking ridiculous. Her weapon had become evidence of her own cruelty, preserved forever in video recordings that would tell a very different story than she'd intended. The weight of 2 years' worth of criticism lifted from my shoulders. Every snide comment, every suggestion that I wasn't worthy, all of it evaporated. David's attempt to process what had just happened played out across his features like a slow-motion revelation. His mother's birthday gift had just cost him a wife who was walking away with dignity, success, and the freedom he'd helped them try to steal. Margaret sat motionless, her satisfied smile completely erased. I walked out of Romano's restaurant that night, carrying nothing but my purse and my dignity, leaving behind a family that had just revealed their true nature to an entire room of witnesses. The cool evening air felt cleaner than it had in months. Each step toward my car marked another moment of distance from people who'd never deserved my efforts to earn their approval. The drive home was silent, except for my phone buzzing with messages I didn't read. David, Margaret, and Emma were probably coordinating damage control. Their desperate attempts to reach me felt powerless now that I held the key to my own future. 2 weeks later, I stood in the marble lobby of Grand Plaza Hotel, wearing a professional uniform that felt like armor. The nameplate on my chest read Jennifer Walsh, Guest Services Coordinator. My maiden name had returned along with my self-respect. The employee residential building became my sanctuary. My furnished apartment was small but beautifully designed. No one criticized my choices, questioned my worth, or made me feel like an unwelcome guest. Jessica Martinez became more than a supervisor, she became a mentor. "Your restaurant background gives you instincts other coordinators have to learn," she explained during my 30-day review. "You read people naturally, anticipate needs, and handle pressure without losing your composure. Those skills are exactly what luxury hospitality requires." The management training program opened doors I'd never imagined. Leadership workshops revealed strengths I'd possessed all along but had been taught to doubt. My first promotion to assistant guest services manager came 4 months after starting, accompanied by a salary increase that pushed my annual income above $50,000. Word of my success began filtering back to Margaret's circle. Linda, her country club friend, happened to stay at Grand Plaza. "You're David's ex-wife, aren't you?" Linda asked. "Margaret mentioned you worked in hospitality, but she never said you were management at such a prestigious hotel." Her surprise was genuine. My success was becoming impossible for Margaret to minimize. David's attempts to reconnect began arriving through social media messages I never answered. His texts grew desperate. But Margaret's lessons about recognizing value only after destruction had taught me not to trust people who celebrated my perceived failures. The divorce settlement proceedings worked entirely in my favor thanks to their own documentation. David's video recording of the birthday ambush became evidence of planned emotional cruelty. No judge would award alimony or shared assets to someone who'd orchestrated public humiliation. Margaret's legal strategy backfired completely. The decorated envelope became Exhibit A, painting her as the architect of family dysfunction. Her attention to detail, the timing, the location, it all proved premeditation, protecting me from financial obligations to people who treated me as disposable. 6 months after that night at Romano's, I was promoted again to guest services manager, supervising a team of 12. The position came with a company car, expense account, and a salary approaching $60,000 annually. Every milestone validated Jessica's initial assessment of my potential and contradicted Margaret's predictions. The hotel's annual employee recognition ceremony became my moment of ultimate vindication. Standing on stage, accepting an award for exceptional customer satisfaction scores, I thought about Margaret's phone conversation. Her prayers had been answered in ways she never intended. My acceptance speech was brief, thanking my team and acknowledging the restaurant experience that had prepared me. The audience of hotel executives applauded someone Margaret had dismissed as unworthy. Their respect felt earned, genuine, rather than conditional. Emma's social media posts about ambitious women stopped entirely after my promotion announcements began appearing in local business publications. David's LinkedIn connection request arrived the same week as my manager promotion, suggesting he was tracking my advancement. His attempt to reconnect professionally felt pathetic. The man who'd recorded my expected humiliation now wanted association with my actual success. The greatest satisfaction came from living well without needing their approval or acknowledgement. My happiness was complete and self-contained, built on genuine achievements and authentic relationships, rather than desperate attempts to earn acceptance from people incapable of recognizing worth. Margaret's judgment had become irrelevant. My new colleagues respected my opinions, valued my contributions. Every day at Grand Plaza Hotel confirmed that her assessment of my potential had been completely wrong. The ultimate revenge wasn't causing them pain. It was proving their cruelty had been based on jealousy and insecurity, rather than an accurate evaluation of my character. Margaret's need to diminish me had revealed more about her limitations than mine. Her birthday gift of divorce papers had freed me to discover success that existed far beyond her narrow vision of acceptable achievement. Standing in my corner office, 18 months after that night at Romano's, I looked out at the city skyline and felt grateful for every criticism that had pushed me toward independence. Margaret's decorated envelope had contained the greatest gift possible, liberation from people who'd never deserved the effort I'd spent trying to earn their love. What would you have done in my place when those papers hit the table? Have you ever had someone try to tear you down only to accidentally set you free? Tell me what you think in the comments below. I really want to know.